Let's see how we can host multiple websites on a single Ubuntu server using Nginx. This method relies on the domains of the different websites, and I already have two domains pointing to the IP of my server. This can be done where you manage your domains by adding an A record. Let's start by installing Nginx. And if we now visit our domain, we get the default response from Nginx. Since my other domain points to the very same server, it leads us to the very same page. Let's now navigate to var www. And here we can see the default HTML folder, and this folder only contains one file, which is the HTML file that's currently shown on our browser. We're going to completely remove this default folder so we can replace it with the content of our two websites. Let's create a folder for the first website. And to keep things simple, I'll use the domain as the name of this folder. In this folder, we can place the files for our website. And to keep things simple, I'll only place here one file, index.html. And here is some content for this file. So we now have index.html in the folder of our first website. Let's create a folder for our second website, and once again I'll use the domain as the name of the folder. This folder is also going to be very simple and will only contain an index.html file. And I'll change the text a bit so it will be easy to tear the two websites apart. So we now have two folders, each representing a different website with its own index.html, and all that's left is to configure Nginx to serve the correct website according to the domain. We start by navigating to etc Nginx. It contains two subfolders that are of interest to us: Sites Available and Sites Enabled. Sites Available contains the configuration for the various websites, and Sites Enabled contains symbolic links to the websites that are active and need to be served. Let's start with Sites Available. As you can see, out of the box, it contains a file called default, and we will create an additional file for each of our websites. Once again, I'll use my domains for the names of the files, so let's use nano to create the first one. I'm going to paste here the minimal essential Nginx configuration for a website. You can copy it from the description box of this video. As you can see, it's quite simple. We start with a listen directive, where we specify the port we want the server to listen to. Then, the server name directive, whose value is the domain. Then we have a context for location, where we specify the path to the files of this website. And finally, the index file, which in our case is simply index.html. We need another file for our second website. And here we need to update the server name and the path to the root folder of this website. So if we list the files in our Sites Available folder, we can see that on top of default, we have one file for each website. We now need to create symbolic links pointing to these files in the Sites Enabled folder. To do that, we use the ln-s command. Then we specify the file for which we create the symbolic link, and then the folder in which the symbolic link will be created. And let's do the same thing for our second website. We can navigate to Sites Enabled, and by using ls-l, we can see that we have here symbolic links, and on the right-hand side, we can see the target of each of these links. We can now run nginx-t to verify our Nginx configuration, and we got a success message, so we can use systemctl to restart the Nginx service. And if we now visit our first domain, we get the HTML for the first website, whereas if we visit the second domain, we are shown the HTML for the second website.